Hello.
Hello everyone, welcome to our January wrap-up. This will be quite late. I don't even know if we've gotten our best of 2019 up yet, but anyway.
We have not. I'm actually considering refilming those since we filmed those in Mississippi.
Oh, we did, yeah, didn't we? Mm-hmm.
And we've been in Missouri for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're gonna play some catch up and talk about what we read in January.
I read 6 things in January.
It looks like I read 9 things, but half of those are books I read to the children for homeschool, so...
One of them's a book I read to the children too.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so, how do you want to do this?
Why don't you go ahead, since you've got more.
Okay. The first book I read in 2020 was Unbecoming by Anuradha Bhagwati. And this is a memoir about a Marine, and she's recapping her experience, I suppose. She's Indian American, second generation, and then female Marine. So she's going through a lot of things with family expectations and trying to fit in American culture compared to her conservative parents. And then going into the Marine culture, which is not very female friendly, and going through and trying to find her place in every aspect of her growing up, you know, as a teenager, dealing with her parents in the Marines, and then afterwards she goes on and has a political career where she fights for women's rights, and throughout the whole thing, also she is bisexual, so she also has those issues that she's working through, and like trying to be a Marine during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and things like that. So this was a really compelling read. I really enjoyed it. It was, of course, very hard to read at times. There were some sexual abuse issues that were difficult to read, but I very much enjoyed the read. Yeah.
I remember you talking about that one a lot while you were reading through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very female empowering, and yeah.
All right, so the first book I finished in January was Run to You. This is book number 2 in the Puppy Love Romance series by Georgia Beers. This takes place in the Junebug's Farm Animal Rescue Shelter. And it's about ladies falling in love with each other, and then their work that they do with these animals that, you know, everyone loves animals, of course, right? So that one was pretty good. So it was book number 2. So this was the second set of people.
It wasn't a continuation of the same couple?
No, it's a different couple in each one. I read this one quite a ways apart from book 1. Not quite sure when I read book 1, but there was something I noticed that I'll get to when I talk about book number 3 here shortly.
Okay. Why don't you actually...
voice actor. Just go ahead and continue.
Yeah, because I realized 3 of my books are from the same series.
Okay. So I also read Dare to Stay, which is book number 3 in the series. And so one of the things reading these back to back that I noticed is that the voice actor, the narrator, what she would do is she would give the main, or at least one of the main protagonists, a very soft, kind of sweet voice. And that like the side characters, especially ones that are supposed to be more like a mentor and more maternal, I guess, a much more maternal and mature voice. And so when it switched to book 3, which focused on the owner of Junebug Farms, who had always had this very, confident and reassuring and mature voice, all of a sudden she had the sweet, soft, kind of timid voice, and it's like, oh, that's that's a weird shift there, but I guess that's just how the narrator did it. But I mean, these were romance books, so that there was there was nothing really cringy about them, I'll say. So
Nice.
that's always a good thumbs up for me. Yeah.
I definitely feel you on the timid girl voice. That can really break a book for me. I know I was attempting to listen to the Hunger Games trilogy at one point, and the narrator gave Katniss a weak, timid voice in the middle of the games, and I was like, come on, this is Katniss. Like, she might be struggling, but she's not this tiny little, like, she was almost crying. The narrator was making her so weak. I don't know. Anyways.
Okay, so you had a trilogy or 3 books in a series that you read?
I totally forgot that I was trying to finish this whole series, and I didn't finish book 4. But I did reread the first 3 of the Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, and Blue Lily Lily Blue. And really, the whole reason for this was I wanted to get to Call Down the Hawk, which recently came out, and that's book 1 in the spin-off series, which follows Ronin. So I had all 5 books out at once from the library, but I actually only got to the first 3 and then forgot about it and never went back and read book 4 and Call Down the Hawk. But these are always good. I really enjoy them. They're just good. I don't know. It's a good YA series about magic, and it's very original, I feel like.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Should I keep going? Or
Yeah,
that was
go
like
ahead.
3. Okay.
Go ahead and do another one.
The girls and I read Mr. Popper's Penguins, which was delightful. I actually did not enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the movie. I guess it wasn't a recent movie, Jim Carrey movie.
Right.
But I think you could definitely tell how dated this was. There were some borderline things that like just made you feel a little uncomfortable. A lot of animal neglect / abuse issues. Like the whole middle of the book, I would say, was the main the man, Mr. Popper, taking his penguins on like this traveling circus type deal. And nowadays we don't like circuses and
animal cruelty.
Yeah. So it felt a little but the girls really liked it.
Yeah, I get that. That's good.
Yeah.
The next thing I read in January was 1 in a Million by Lindsay Kelk. This was one that I was just flipping through Scribd and it's saying, hey, you'd probably like this. And I was like, all right, sure, I'll give it a try. And I think it's a fairly new book. But this is I'd say this is a new adult romance. I'm not sure what nails down that genre. Anyway,
I think it's the age.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
So
yeah.
it's like college age is new.
So this would be this was characters in the beginning of their career. So they weren't in college, but they were young adults, I suppose you could say. But this one was it didn't have any kind of sexy moments or anything in it. Really, the climax of it was the 2 characters decided they were gonna date.
Aww.
But so this is about I can't remember what the character's name was.
It's been a while.
Yeah, but they work in a sort of social media marketing startup company. Her and her best friend. And they're in this co-working space, and they get into a bet with some programmers that they share space with that they couldn't make someone internet famous within 30 days or whatever. And so they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll take that challenge. And, who becomes the challenge, but the total hipster, like, doesn't even have a cell phone, very technology averse. He's very into history, and he writes a book on his typewriter or whatever, and so a big challenge for them there. But big thing this had going for it is it takes place in England, and so the voice actor was English, and that just makes the comedy just that much better to an American just all right off the bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, just very, very witty British humor, and I enjoyed it. And it was very sweet too. It was very slow burn of a romance, really more becoming friends, and then is there something there? Is there not?
More authentic.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. I'm sorry, were you done?
Yes, I was done. Go ahead.
I forgot to mention the authors of Mr. Popper's Penguin. That is Richard and Florence Atwater. We're the authors for that.
All right. Cool. Did you want to keep going? Did you only have a few left?
I have 4 left.
I have 3 left, so go ahead.
Okay. The next book I read to the children was The Family Under the Bridge by Natalie Savage Carlson. And this was a story about a group of, a family, a single mother and 3 children that are recently homeless, and they're living under a bridge, and they meet an older man who has been homeless for most of his adult life, and he loves it, and it's the best life for him, and he is worried about getting too close to these children because he knows they're going to worm their way into his heart, and then he's going to feel bad for them, and then he's going to have to work hard to help them, and he doesn't want to do it. But of course they become a found family, and it's adorable, and it's in Paris, so it's very atmospheric. You've got all the architecture and everything.
I remember you looking up pictures of what the streets that they're talking about in there look like now, and then finding some historic pictures while you were reading that with the kids.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was really cool. Okay, so the next thing I read in January was The Proposition by Katie Ashley. This book was horrible. I finished this book only as a hate read, and I was still even upset, like hate reading it. So this see, this is what happens when like you have the Audible Escape package and you're just trying to find something free, some free audiobook to listen to in there, and you like I mean this isn't a new problem. Like there's a lot of trash in the in the romance genre, but man, this was so. The Proposition, aptly named. So the premise of this is very professional, independent businesswoman, of course, is very baby crazy, and she's upset because her gay best friend has backed out of the sperm donor role that he was going to fulfill, and the playboy of the office overhears from around the corner this conversation, he doesn't quite overhear it. He hears her telling her best friend to stop touching her, and so he comes around and all plays hero and everything. He's like, "Hey, get your hands off her," blah, 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 and defuses the situation. But then, like, not 10 minutes later, as he's walking her to her car, he forces a kiss on her. But I guess it's okay because she decided she liked it once the kiss had happened that she did not consent to.
No.
And that could just like be a theme throughout this entire book, but it's just it was so slimy, this whole thing. So this guy offers to, get her a baby, but she's got to do it the old-fashioned way because, he's got to get something out of this deal.
Gross.
And so, of course, they're supposed to fall in love or something in this, but by the end of it, he, gets freaked out, and so he cheats on her, and she catches him. And there's apparently 2 more books in the series of him winning her love back.
Oh.
So this was really bad. Like, I don't know if that's actually some women's sexual fantasy, but if it is, you're better than that. Like, that's...
And this is why I try and avoid as much as possible the romance genre. I just can't stand, like... I mean, I understand everybody's got their own thing, and that's fine. The world is full of different people have different things, but I find that stuff so often, like, just women being treated like doormats.
Yeah, it was, just very cringe.
Yeah.
Very cringe all throughout.
So you're gonna finish the series?
No, I did actually try and listen to book 2 a little bit because they left it on, her catching him cheating, but then it was just him just groveling for like chapters, and I'm just like, all right, enough of this. Like, that's... We're just gonna cut this off.
We're done.
It's the first thing I've read by Katie Ashley. It's I'm gonna have to be very generous if I give her another shot.
Yeah. Okay, the next thing that I read to the children was Dealing with Dragons by Patricia C. Reed? I was so excited to get to this one because I remember reading these as a kid and really liking them. I like the female empowerment. It's this story of a princess who does not want to get married and so runs away and ends up living with dragons, and every time a prince comes to rescue her from the dragons, she basically like belittles them and tells them to just go away and leave her alone because she has things to do. She can't be bothered right now. And it's fun. I'm not sure if we're going to continue on in the series because reading it out loud did seem to, I don't know, it started to feel a bit repetitive and a bit stretched. I had the same problem with The School for Good and Evil. Who was the author of that one? I'm not sure. I'll put it here, I guess. But the first book felt way too long, and it was the same sort of princesses and villains, and everyone's so stereotypical, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But we very much did enjoy this first one.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, the kids did enjoy that. They actually named one of their new cats after one of the princesses in it. Until they renamed her about yesterday, right?
It's hard to keep track of. Yep.
All right. The next book I read was Bite the Big One by Sharon Cara. This
wonder what that's about.
This is a paranormal rom-com, and this one took place in England as well, just with an even more thick English accent narrator, which was just even better. This one was really funny. Like, it was hilarious. I really appreciated the comedy in this one.
Nice.
And even like the characters in it too. Like, everyone's just fairly normal. Like, even though there's like, the main character's best friend is a witch, and she's really bad at being a witch, so her spells always backfire. And, the main character ended up with a dog who can talk, and so it's always making these snotty remarks to her about how, she sucks at dating and things like that. Like, how pathetic she is.
How sad.
And then the love interest is a vampire hunter, but his day job is he works at his mother's garden shop. And it's... So, and just, very, it did a typical, vampire story with, you know, a romance element in it, but, you know, definitely focused on just kind of the zaniness of the characters and the comedy of the
That's
story
fun.
involved. Yeah.
Especially after that really terrible one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It was necessary.
So it was a good cleansing experience after.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I should have pulled this up. The next thing that we read as a homeschool book was Pippi Longstocking, and this was by Astrid Lindgren, translated by Florence Lambourne. And this was the original classic Pippi Longstocking, which apparently I've never read before because it was very new to me. And I thought it was fine, but our 7-year-old, oh my God, this was so her book. She loved it. She loved the zany quirkiness of this character. And even today, like, both of the girls have their moments where when we're trying to tuck them into bed, they'll flip around and stick their head under the covers and their feet out on their pillow, like Pippi does. And yeah, they very much enjoyed that one.
That's good for them to get a character like that in a book, definitely.
Yeah, that just acts completely silly, but is also strong female character, like physically strong. She like no danger can come to her because she's like superhuman strong or whatever. She lifts her horse up and down off the porch every day. Things. So there's no like bad consequences for this little girl living on her own. Like burglars break in one time and it's okay because she's not really in danger. You know? Yeah, that was good.
Cool. The last thing I read is something I read to the children, and it was The Two Towers, the Lord of the Rings book 2 by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have been working my way through the Lord of the Rings series with them. It's going faster as they get older because I think it took about a year for me to read The Fellowship of the Ring to them because, you know, they can only hang for, you know, only a few pages at first.
Yeah.
But in The Two Towers, we actually got to the point where we were reading like 50-page chapters, like, you know, all in one night. So we actually went through that one pretty quick, I feel like. And we're on Return of the King now.
That's so cool.
Another, you know, you were saying, you know, rereading these books, but then rereading them aloud is a whole new experience. You know, you just catch so much more and just things you've forgotten. I mean, it'd been 10 years at least since I read these books. And, you know, all of just watching the movies, you know, in between them. So you just lose so much of everything that's going on. Yeah, so it's been good that they've been, for the most part, been able to follow along, even with Tolkien's, you know, the way he
flowery,
writes.
Very descriptive. Was it flowery?
Or just very detailed description, but also in how people talk to each other. It's a very older style of, you know, words and then sentence structure and stuff too. And sometimes you've got these sentences that are just like, you know, a whole paragraph, but just comma here, comma, 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 you know.
Sentences.
And so you run out of breath, you know, trying to finish them. Yeah, and that was everything I read in January.
Awesome. I read just one more to the kids, and this was A True Home, Heartwood Hotel #1 by Callie George and Stephanie Gregan. And I should have brought this down from upstairs. This was I think this was a story for a little bit of a younger audience, so our 7-year-old enjoyed it much more than I personally did, and our 9-year-old was like kind of in the middle. This is a story of a little mouse who is all sad and lonely and gets washed up one stormy evening and finds herself at this hotel tree, and there's a bunch of misfits there, and it's a found family situation, and she learns to have a voice and saves the day, and it was very sweet. It definitely was. But it was also very boring for a 30-year-old woman to be trying to read about this tiny little mouse. And I also, like, I have a really hard time with books about animals, like where the animal is the main character. I very much struggle with that. So this was not my kind of a book, but the girls liked it, so.
Good.
And that is what we read in January.
Yeah, so yeah, leave us a comment. Hit that subscribe button.
And we will definitely be making more content
Yes.
on a regular basis. I promise.
Take care, everyone.